Hi guys, so today I decided to make one of my favorite recipes, which is ceviche, traditional way. As you know, you can make it many different ways. You can add oranges, peaches, I mean, I've seen it all. And we try with different recipes, but I always go back to the one the one that I'm feel comfortable with, and it brings it home to me, okay? It's a really hot day, so I always go with this. And I decided also to make myself a drink. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, right? So I'm having a wine spritzer. It's so freaking hot here today that I'm gonna make myself a wine spritzer, which is the easiest thing to make, and I find it to be very refreshing in a hot day like this. So yeah, it's one of my go-to drinks in a day like this. And put a little salsa water, white wine, wedge or lime or lemon, and just let it be. And let me give it a try. Perfecto. So today I'm gonna make red snapper ceviche. Okay, we got this thing. This thing was swimming this morning. We do have a video where we actually got it right out of the boat today. It's amazing. They had a few big ones as well there too. So I'm gonna make this ceviche, and the other half I'm gonna roast it tomorrow with. I'll make something different with that. So, and the ingredients for the ceviche, of course, the most important ingredient here is how fresh the fish is. So I'm 100% sure that this is extremely fresh. I mean, I will eat sashimi after the video is filmed. So yeah, that is the key. If you're making ceviche, make sure it's a fresh fish you can get. Ingredients are very simple. I got a dozen limes, excuse me. There's no lemons here, very hard to find. I got about 5 tomatoes. I mean, tomatoes is up to you how many you want to use. The same thing goes with the onions. I got a couple onions, and most importantly, this recipe doesn't work without the cilantro, okay? And I had to have some peppers as well, jalapenos. You can use any hot peppers you want. Also, a lot of times what I do is if there are kids involved, I just chop some and I just have it on the side. And the soy sauce is just for me to have some sashimi. It's just I cut the fish as I go along. So yeah, this is a process. Normally I would say about 2-pound fish. If you want to add shrimp too, you can. Normally if I add shrimp to it, I actually cook it for about 2 minutes, and then I take it out and I chop it up in pieces as well. So yeah, any fish works, but ideally you want to use something that is not oily. And the Northeast, for instance, they have cod there. It's fresh. That's a nice fish to use. One of my favorites over there was the halibut. The halibut cooks very easily. And one of my favorites here is the red snapper. So I'm excited to try this. So yeah, I'll show you the end result. I'm gonna actually make it with also, I'm gonna add forgot to show you that, which is one of my favorite things to do. We're gonna make chips from yuca, fresh yuca today. So it's gonna be with the ceviche later.
So I have a question before we get started.
Okay.
You are always very particular about limes, and
Yes, I am. Extremely
I have never been educated about limes in the way
Most people don't know, yes.
So could you tell us some tips and tricks on buying the best limes to get the juice out of?
Absolutely. One of the things about limes, right? First of all, they're pricey nowadays, So there's nothing worse than come home and you cut the lime and there's zero juice coming out of it, right? So here's the trick of it, the knowledge that I acquire, because limes basically grow wild here. So this is where you're gonna look for. So most people, they don't pay attention to this. Notice how the skin looks over here. Really green.
Dimply.
It's dimply as well. And that means it's not quite ready yet. And notice the difference between this one right here. Nice and soft and puffy. It's very puffy line right here. So if you squeeze a little, you can feel the juice inside of it. So this is what you want to look for. The roundness, the skin is the key as well too, okay?
Okay.
So that is the keys, yeah.
So no limes with cellulite.
Hey, I didn't say that. Okay, yeah, well, if you want to describe it that way. I didn't say that. But yes, just look for the smoothest that you can find in the skin, and and you can also press it a little. You can feel the juice inside of it, okay? Very key, and it's simple. And believe me, you don't have to buy 20 lines to get the same amount you're going to be able to get with just 10, if you get it right, okay? Yeah, so we're going to start now. We're going to cut some fish. So what I like to do in this point, notice how the small pieces I cut. I mean, I like them pretty small. I don't like the big chunks, stains, in anything. You know how I am about cooking, right? That
Yes.
if I go to a restaurant and I see a big piece of onion like that or a big piece of tomato, you know, I get a little, because it takes away from the bite. I mean, you want to have a full bite, you know, you're not there to eat the tomato, you're there to eat the whole combination, right? So I start with the fish first. I cut it really small. Especially here, you got to start with the fish first. And of course, after that, I will add the line on it, so that way they can start the process of cooking the fish. Like, the most important thing is how fresh is the fish. There's no way you can screw it up if you get fresh fish. And also, do not cook the fish. The cook will cook itself with the juices of the line, okay? I had a funny story. Years ago, we were celebrating my buddy's birthday. I ended up making ceviche for like, I don't know, it was supposed to be like 50 people at the party, or probably more. So I brought the ceviche there. I worked all day making it. And I brought the ceviche to my buddy's house. And I told him, don't touch it, I'll be back. I'm gonna go shower and change and come back. So on the way back, I get out of the elevator. I think he lived on the 15th floor or something. And I smell this wonderful smell coming in the hallway. And I'm like, man, somebody's cooking some really nice fish here. You know, it must be like soup or something. And of course, as I got closer, I started to put two and two together. Like, wait a minute, the smell is coming from this guy's house. The mistake he made is, like I told him, don't touch it. He actually started to cook it. So it was a gross soup, man. I mean, I wanted to kill him. Let's put it that way. I was so disappointed. I worked so hard the whole day to make the ceviche, and it was a complete fiasco. I mean, what a waste that was. I mean, but he called me a couple of days later. He said he liked it. So for me, I was a complete disappointment. I was very disappointed. Anyway, so also, this is another thing, observation here. Some people get a little freaked out by like red skin like this, right? So if that is the case, I mean, if you have plenty of fish, you can just basically slice it like this and stick it out and just get the whole loin, clean loin. I mean, I'll try it and see if there's any difference. It is a little bit, it's a little more chewy with the red. So I'm gonna go away from the red. What I like to do before I actually cut the line, I like to do this to the line. It kind of loosens them up a little bit. Some people are really against that. I just don't mind it because, you know, it releases the additional citric or the bitterness of it. I don't see it, but that's what they tell me all the time. But I don't really mind it at all. I find it to be much easier to get the complete juice out of them. So the whole goal here is just to get a fork. Just gonna put the fork right on it and twist it. And don't go too hard because, again, you get the bitterness out of the line that way. So I just go slightly. See, that's how much I go. Otherwise, yes, you will get bitter if you do it too hard. So it just depends.
Do you have like a fish to lime ratio? Like how much weight of fish,
I want to
how many
cover.
limes? How do you know?
Well, again, this is probably 1.5 pounds fish here. Close to, 1.5 pounds. So I would use about 10 lines. But what I like to do is just slightly cover. You know what I mean? And if I need to add a little bit of water to do that, it's okay. But the lime juice is very powerful, so it does cook everything. I mean, have you ever had a cut in your finger and the lime juice gets in there?
Doesn't take a lot.
It doesn't. It kind of sucks, doesn't it? Well, guess what? I do have a cut right here, and I'm feeling it right now. Believe it or not, I kind of like it. It's weird. It's just weird.
Of course.
I'm just weird like that. I don't know. In my mind, it's curing me.
And
You know?
we were talking about crazy people earlier.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, we can start by looking at ourselves
Look
first.
in the mirror.
It's okay. We all have a little crazy on us. Right, Foxy girl?
Mate Foxy.
Oh, she smelled the fish. She's a fish girl. She loves the fish. She's a beach dog, so she's dying for the fish here. So we're gonna take care of them later. They're gonna eat really well today, Foxy. So notice over here, the lime juice is almost starting to cover. So I'll probably at this point, I will just put a couple more. Yeah, still a little low, but I mean, if you add a little water to the lime and juice in the fish, it will notice it's already starting to break it down too. But it's also because of the heat. It's intense heat right now, so it's important that we do this quick as possible because I'm there. This heat here in the open kitchen is just intense. I'm sweating. But you know what? It's hard work. It's going to pay off later. That's the way I look at it. I'm going to be enjoying this by the pool, or actually sunset. The fish in the fridge. And I just started by cutting the end of the tomatoes here. You know, this is easy. Again, I prefer to cut them really small, but it's just a matter of preference with this. See, 3 slices, side. And again, you can add as many tomatoes as you want. Ideally, with a pound and a half of fish, I like to do like 3 or 4. But again, it's just a matter of preference. But you can use any kind of tomatoes too, by the way. That's another thing I forgot to mention. Actually, I had it once with cherry tomatoes, and actually it was delicious with that too. I prefer the big round ones, the beefsteak tomatoes. Yeah, so for whatever reason, I actually prefer those, but here you see a lot more of this than anything else. So, and they were fresher. All my ideal cooking is whatever looks better. That's the one I go with. The ceviche tomatoes to the shrimp. To the ceviche fish. Excuse me. So yeah, so this will be, I think, is a lot for the ceviche.
But do you want to add a little less?
No, actually, like I mentioned, I want to eat it throughout the weekend, so I want to have a little bit more. But notice, I think that probably is a good amount for that. Again, okay. It's just a matter of preference.
Almost like a layer of tomatoes.
That would probably say this was about 4 tomatoes at most. You know, like I mentioned earlier, I like everything really cut fine because I want to have a bite of everything every single time.
Do you always use red onion?
You can use both. I prefer red onions, a little sweeter, with the fish. But here's a trick part about it, because most people like the Peruvian, for instance, they give you like the whole round onions.
Yeah.
I like them small, so I'm gonna cut in half here.
Myself.
Like that?
Yeah. And then I slice it again.
Yeah, that's what I do too. But notice that it's not too thick.
Yeah.
But you have to have the right consistency, man. Otherwise, I don't like to have that big bite of onions in there. It just doesn't feel good. And notice once you have it here, I just chop it like this. That might be a little bit much, but it's okay.
We'll see how it turns out, right?
Exactly. Like I said, I do like to enjoy onions a lot. So now, just to give you an idea what it might, it's going to start looking like. And there you go. Notice it's just...
The fish is already cooked.
It's cooked.
Almost.
It's starting to cook. Yes, absolutely. But again, in this case, the fish is so fresh that it's like you can just eat it the way it is. In fact, actually, the Peruvian ceviche is like that raw with just the leche de tigre, they call it, which is the ingredients they put in the blender. So notice I'm starting to test it out here. It looks like it might need a little bit more lime, but I think I can also add a little bit more water, and that will balance it out. So lastly, what I'm going to do is, notice how hot it is here. This thing was fresh like an hour or two ago. So I forgot to put it in the fridge. I left it here. Look, it's dying already. So I will, in this case, I like this about 1/3 of the cilantro bunch that I have here. And this is another thing about the cilantro. I kind of like the little branches on the cilantro, Most people don't.
You can use the stems.
I like the stems a lot. And the ceviche is almost done. That's how quickly you can make ceviche. Ideally, if you're not into eating raw fish or anything like that, you want to leave it overnight or a few hours. I know how fresh the fish is, so I don't mind it. I'll eat it. Again, this is just a matter of preference. It's how you actually prefer it. Most people would put a little bit less than I'm putting on. I'm just a big fan of cilantro. I have heard from people they actually think cilantro tastes like soap.
That's a genetic DNA.
Yes, I guess it is a generic, right?
Yeah.
And lastly, we have this jalapeno here. So this is something debatable. You can add it on if you want now, or you can add it later. Many ways to do it. If you want a little hot, you leave the seeds on. At this point, I'm just going to chop it really fine like this and just add it because I think the ceviche tastes awesome with a little heat on it.
And so if someone is one of those people that thinks cilantro tastes like soap, Is there another herb you could switch it out
You
for?
can use something else like parsley perhaps, just to give it a little look so green, a little flavor on it. But
What about basil?
basil, you can, but I think the basil is going to depend on the fish because basil can kind of change the flavor.
When I saw the recipe with orange juice, I was thinking like basil would
Little
be
pepper?
interesting.
Fresh pepper on it. I mean, again, another part is just matter of preference here. So this is amazing. It's all sold right, right locally. So this one, I would probably do like a tablespoon of it. So notice over here, and this is basically ceviche. Right now, I can eat it the way it is, but I notice over here, to me, it looks a little dry. So I might want to add a couple more lines in here, or a little bit of water. I like the lime myself and the water. So you look at the consistency here, right? You gotta have a nice color. I can see the tomatoes. I can see the cilantro. You can see the onions. So to me, that kind of symbolizes a good ceviche. I just think it needs a little bit more lime juice. Yeah, so if you like it a little soupy, you can add a little bit more water to it. Because more people like to scoop a little bit of the juice when they're eating the ceviche. So that's sometimes I like to add the water for that reason alone. All right, so this is the moment of truth. I'm gonna see if I need anything. I'll make sure I got everything on it in the bite. See, this is why I like to cut everything small. Because you get a bite of everything.
How are the ratios? Tomato, onion, lime,
The ratios are
cilantro.
perfect. I mean, I got a piece of lime, I got a piece of everything. I mean, I got a piece of tomato, everything was in there. I think it's perfect. I might need a little bit more salt. So a spoon of salt, a teaspoon of salt, excuse me. And about half a spoon of pepper. Again, it's just a matter of preference with that. As well with the jalapenos or hot or whatever hot peppers you want to use. It's all about your preference. Actually, I even got the piece of the jalapeno too. I would get a nice kick to it.
Nice.
Nice. Let me try one more time. Voila. And now here's the finished product. The ceviche with the traditional dish. And of course, this is handmade yuca chips. Can't wait to dig in, man. This looks really yummy. It's perfect time, and it's perfect time for sunset. And I'm gonna get myself a nice cool beer, and I'm gonna enjoy the ceviche. You excited for it, babe?
Yeah, says the vegetarian.
She's a vegetarian, so I'm gonna have to figure out how to make a vegetarian ceviche at some point, but quite not understanding the consistency of certain vegetables to make it that way. But yeah, please make it at home. If you have any suggestions, put the comments on down.
All right, see you guys soon.
Arrivederci.